What's up, adventurers? Today we are at the excuse me, we're at the Augusta Museum of History, and we're going to do a little tour of the Augusta Museum. They've got a cool James Brown exhibit here in Augusta, Georgia. They've got history. They've got all sorts of taxidermy. Why don't we go in and check it out? Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and watch those videos. Let's go adventuring. So welcome to the Augusta Museum of History, and as like most museums, it's chronological. So we're going to start off in the early human history here with this great diorama. And it says Paleo-Indian hunters thrusting spears to kill large Ice Age mammals such as this mastodon had become mired in a swamp. So this area here in Augusta, Georgia, 12,000 years ago, had small nomadic bands of related families in these Paleo-Indigenous people. They had eating because they were so few during this period. People occupied sites for a brief time. They left behind few artifacts, but Paleo-Indigenous people lasted from 10,500 to 8,000 BC. All right, we're moving right along. So here's some of the weapons they've found left over from the Paleo people. Spearheads here, a bolo stone to throw a bolo, and down here we've got a mammoth jawbone for grinding leaves and such. So this here is a animal of the last ice age came through here. And this is actually animals last ice age crossed the river here, and the first Native Americans followed soon after. So this is a piece of spear tip. Okay. So if you've never been to Augusta, Georgia, we are right on the Savannah River here. And there's lots of islands and things in the middle where people like this woman would have lived. And these are Paleo people. And again, I just read the placard, 3,000 to 8,000, 3,500 to 8,000 BC, they were here. Hunter-gatherers, most of our ancestors were. And here's some of their clothing and some of the weapons they used. Leather palm pads used for not wearing their hands down when working with flint and stone. Some of the other stoneworking tools they found. Really neat. Hammer stones, bowls. Really nice exhibit here showing the Paleo people here in the Savannah River Basin. And you can open these drawers and see more things. These are prehistoric ornaments that they would have worn as necklaces and things. Open this one. Spearheads, drawer full of them. 1540 AD. These are the Mississippian. So this would have been a little after Paleo. And this is where she would have lived. I like it. And as you can see, she's working on gathering some nuts. All right, so here's some of the other pottery they've found from these early indigenous peoples. Corn pipes, things like that, bowls. Ooh, look at the arrowheads. From 1000 to 900 AD. So this is period is highlighted, larger permanent settlements, woodland Indians. Things here. This is so cool. I think I'm like one of the few in this museum right now. Only $7. Some more spearheads. Very cool. Some projectile points they found where this guy would throw his spear at a mastodon or a mammoth. And here they are. And there's an island here on the Savannah River in the middle if you go kayaking where you can still find things left over from these people. I think it's a goat island now, though. There's lots of goats living there. All right, now into the next part of history. the colonial period from 1732 to 1820. So this is when the British came, early settlers. Spanish silver coins. Crossbow. There is Hernando de Soto. So in this particular area, James Oglethorpe from Britain founded Augusta in 1736. American Revolution happened 1776 to 1783. Patriots imposed a ban here in Augusta on British trade. Georgia's first constitution sent Augustans to sign the Declaration. The British Army occupied Augusta in 1779, but the Patriots liberated it 2 years later. And then 1783 to 1820, Augusta was the state capital from 1785 to 1795 instead of Atlanta. The legislature sent 2 men to sign the United States Constitution in 1787. I've actually seen them in Savannah. Okay, so here's some of the early 1700s people that were here and some of their belongings. So some of the trade started happening. Flintlock rifle that was found. And a lot of this was donated by the paleontologists, or archaeologists, I'm sorry, at Augusta University. And here's some of the things they found. Some buckles from shoes, 1700s. So this is all 18th century type of stuff. And here's some of the war dance here by the indigenous peoples, making music with drums. Axes, axe heads, all sorts of stuff. Dogwood flowering. Here is a swallowed tail hawk. There's a chest. It's called a hide chest. It was very popular in the American colonies. Deerskin. And of course, there is the gentleman who founded and claimed Augusta for Europe. Now, mind you, the Paleo people had been here thousands of years earlier, and they had already lived here, but the Europeans came over, and Oglethorpe founded Georgia for Europe. Or Augusta, excuse me. And this is, of course, I believe, Augusta herself. Let's double check that. Yes, this is Princess Augusta, for who they named Augusta after in 1736. And that kind of concludes the pre-Civil War 18th century stuff. Now we're getting into, here's some of the gentlemen you'd see in the Revolution. For those 2 years that the British were holding Augusta. Continental Army here, frontier militiamen and Revolutionary War front. So these guys would have been fighting the British at Fort Augusta with a cannon. I do like his outfit. Always like 18th century outfits. Okay, chronological folks, stay with me. Now we're moving more into the 1700s here. We're getting close to the signing of the Declaration. And of course, this gentleman, I think I visited this guy's grave in Savannah. Let's see if it's him. This is Colonel Elijah Clark. And he was one of the heroes of the Revolution, badly wounded during the Revolution, but survived to become a general. A blunderbuss here. Got a British officer's fusil. British light dragoon pistol. I like that name, Dragoon. And then we've got a baby here, a baby carriage. All right, so I'm starting to see slavery. We're getting to 1800s here, folks. Here is a loom. Spinner, basket maker, carpenter, blacksmith, bricklayer, all the tools of the trade here. And there's some cotton. We are in the South after all, so of course there's cotton. Okay, now we go to antebellum, 1820 to 1860, and you better believe it, this is plantations, cotton, slavery, and the Civil War. And rice and indigo were also traded. Augusta became a major market for shipping cotton by steamboat and Petersburg boat. Labor-intensive way of getting it place to place, but that's the way they did it. So here we go, folks. Welcome to pre-Civil War South in the city of Augusta. It's not pretty. These were slave quarters. They brought people over from Africa, enslaved them, and used them for chattel, which means they owned them. This is 1850 slave quarters. Here they are again at one of the slave trading posts. This is called the Lower Market, actually, and it was on Broad Street here in Augusta. The original building shown was destroyed by a cyclone or tornado, and some say that it was destroyed because a African shaman cursed it for having brought all these people here against their will. And here's some slaves working, chattel slavery, working in the cotton fields. These are some, I guess you would call this pottery, but I know there's another name for it where they put faces and things on the pottery. I forget the name of it. Face jar, face cup. Slaves made them, so it's almost, you see the African influence buried by Union troops, that they made them for the Confederacy. So here we go. Sale of 8 slaves, 1856. Here is a slave chain and shackle. $600 here, a receipt, the purchase of a slave woman here in Augusta, April 9th, 1856. Ugly history, but you need to know all of history. It's not pretty, but it's not supposed to be. This is an African-American woman portrait. She was a French descendant born in Charleston. It's just, I think we as people want to try and, make history to where you don't want to look at the ugly parts, but I think if you don't look at the ugly parts, you're going to repeat it. History needs to be told from every angle. So this is what the example of the inside of a plantation would look like. Of course, we have a harp over here, nice couch or settee, portraits of the plantation owner and his wife. So this is Emily Harvey Thomas Tubman. She was a landowner. They even named a school after her. She helped freed slaves settle in Liberia in West Africa. So well done. Good. Wrong those rights. Right those wrongs, excuse me. There's some muskets and things like that. The Richmond County Courthouse here. Building the early city itself. American militias of the 50s, Augusta Guards, early police. All right, so this would have been an antebellum kitchen where the slaves would have worked. Okay, so we're moving along. This is actually the college I went to, and this is the old Augusta University, which used to be the Powder Works and the Arsenal. And then it changed hands a couple times during the Civil War. One of the many flags of the Confederacy. It's not all Confederate rebel flag. They had different flags. Ooh, let's see what this is. So I do like these things where you look inside. Let's take a look. Picture of a Civil War of the Arsenal. Okay, so this is the Confederate Powder Works. This is right across the street from the gym that I go to sometimes. Of course, it changed hands many times. The Union got a hold of it after the Confederacy lost. Here's some of the copper cups and weaponry of a Civil War soldier. Crutches a Civil War soldier would have used had they had to lose a limb, which many of the churches down here in the downtown area were actual hospitals during the Civil War. All right, folks, here we go. So, again, not a pretty part of history, but you got to know it. You got to know it. You got to learn from your mistakes. Here is the section dedicated to the Confederacy. Here's a saber and boots an officer would have worn. Of course, the 13 stars of the Confederate flag represented the 13 states of the Confederacy. Growing up here in the South, you had to learn those things. But many think that was the only flag of the Confederacy. They had many. That's just the one that became popularized. Cannons, pistols. Slouch hat worn by a Confederate soldier. The drummer boy, who usually we're not supposed to be shot at. I spoke to a reenactor, and they said that the flag, the drummer boys were, you're supposed to have like, war rules. You weren't supposed to shoot at them. So here is a Union and a Confederate soldier. And yes, black people were allowed to enlist. If you've never seen the movie with Matthew Broderick called Glory, I highly recommend it. 54th Massachusetts Regiment, great movie. Carpetbaggers here coming down from the north after the South loss. So we're now getting into post-Civil War. But before I do that, I gotta come back around because the Civil War section is not complete. There's some more officers' jackets here from the Union. Very ornate. Officers with the Clinch rifles. Here's the boys. And they've even got here where you can lift a rifle. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's got some weight to it, that is for sure. Let's check the pack. Oh yeah, pack is heavy too, man. These guys had to lift some stuff. Here's all the weaponry. Muskets, sabers, infantry. All right, I can't overlook this. When I came in, I almost overlooked it. So during the pre-Civil War, cotton was king here in the South, as you always hear, and this was a Petersburg boat that they used on the canal to go up and down the canal to transport cotton. Now, as you can tell, this boat is very long, not very easy to get from place to place, but this slave had to do it. That was his job. Not easy work either, but there they are. They still have these Petersburg boats where you can actually get tours of them on the canal to see what it used to be like. But anyways, we're now moving on to post-Civil War, but you can walk up this. This is pretty neat. Take a look inside. An actual recreated Petersburg boat, which is kind of neat. Really long. Yeah, I don't even want to imagine how difficult it was to control this thing. I guess you had a good current with you. It wouldn't be bad. All right, let's go into post-Civil War, into the Industrial Revolution. So here's a nice fancy hearse, horse-drawn. If you died and you really had some money, this is how you'd want to go to your final resting place. We're also going to get into Jim Crow South. You know what that means, segregation, folks. Just because the Emancipation was passed did not mean many southern states were happy about that. And they continued to segregate. They thought that by giving black people quote unquote equal rights that, they were getting treated fairly, and of course they weren't. So here's some steam coming in. You're going to start seeing steam engines and things during the Industrial Revolution. Mills, those sorts of things. This is a an actual fire engine. Here's one of the old fire hats. These mills were not safe places to work. Fires broke out. Cotton was highly flammable. Sibley Mill was manufactured here for making clothing, or as they call it, textile. Again, this is pre-union, so people were not getting rights. Here's a bale of cotton that would go through, so I gotta make sure I don't go backwards in time. We want to continue forward. So back to the Industrial Revolution. Can you imagine having to put a fire out with this? It's wild, like absolutely wild. Horse-drawn. All right. So here is Richmond Academy, which is now a high school, but it used to be a military academy. So we're getting into the 20th century, a time of change, folks, which means doughboys in World War I, early 1900s. Here we go. 1917. This is an air raid signal corps. Not air raid, I should have said that wrong. Uh-oh, I hear steam. So 20th century changed the world in extraordinary ways. The time was defined by the Great Depression, progressive era activism, historically significant wars. The century was dominated by events that defined the modern era: Spanish flu, pandemic, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, nuclear arms races, space exploration, civil rights movement, and revolutionized technology. All had an impact here on Augusta, Georgia, where I'm at the Augusta Museum of History. So Bon Air was built, Hampton Terrace, Forest Hills Hotel, Partridge Inn, early 1900s. All the rich Vanderbilts and things wanted places to go when they traveled, and this is where you did it. Early airports. Here's the old downtown Augusta, what it looked like. Okay. Nice writing desk here. All right. Is this Shoeless Joe Jackson? Because he's local. I know he's not too far up. Ty Cobb. Excuse me, that's Ty Cobb. Lots of sports coming through here, but of course I wouldn't be in Augusta unless I mentioned the Augusta National. And there's the Robert Jones golf. Ironically enough, my least favorite sport, but I have to acknowledge it because we're in Augusta, Georgia. So here's where the air raids started happening. And if you were in American history, there was a panic of nuclear war. Many times, Cuban Missile Crisis, but this was actually an air raid warden hat. The Civil Defense Corps, and it was worn by civil defense air raid wardens. The air raid wardens would ensure that people were obeying wartime blackouts. So World War II, when they were afraid that, the enemy forces would fly over. Here's a Browning automatic rifle, the BAR. All right, we're getting into World War II now, boys, and Fort Gordon is here. It's a communications fort, but Captain America here would be proud. 1943 Army uniform. Always liked the World War II uniform. There's something about it. Doughboys never really did it for me. All right, so this is reminding me of my trip to the Savannah Prohibition Museum. And this is their little, if you haven't watched it, please go check it out. Here's their little nod to Prohibition and stills. I guess Augusta had its fair share of moonshiners too. Yep, speakeasies. There you go. Of course, there's the Bon Air that's now lower income housing, but back in the day, the richest of the rich came here and would stay there. Oh, this looks fun. All right, folks. Travel is changing. The horse is no longer the way to go. We're going into electric travel now. Let's go inside this. Okay, so you don't have to adjust your screens. That is an actual locomotive, and I did some research. They had to build a train track leading to this museum from the old museum to get this sucker in here. And let me tell you, it's huge. Let's go take a look all the way down. So this is a steam locomotive, and boy, is she a beaut. Look at this. And they've got it set up to look like, you know, you're getting ready to hop on the train. And I think you can get into the train. If I saw some of the pamphlets up front, tell you kind of different parts of the museum here. Go see some more of local Augusta history. There's the trolley, gas station, fire engine. This guy up here, this guy. He's working on a line, power line. Oh, the power's out. They got me up on this line. I'm doing some difficult work. Oh, I gotta sit here and work on these lines. That guy's up there having himself a blast. And by the way, Greens, I think, is a local restaurant or a store. I'll have to go look at the placard in a minute. All right, we're continuing on here. So here. Howdy do, sir. Howdy do. I'm the train engineer. Where are you going this fine afternoon? Where to, sir? All right, so this is number 302. So this is a coal tender. I'm sorry, it's not steam. This locomotive was 1914. Were built at the Locomotive Works in Ohio. It was delivered to the Georgia Railroad in 1915. And it was here in Augusta. It retired in 1952. It's the only remaining Georgia Railroad steam locomotive. So it is steam. Class 282 wheel alignment. These powerful locomotives were often used during World War II to haul the heaviest freight and troops. 15 tons of coal and 10,000 gallons of water. Got turned in 1920 to a passenger car. All right, so let's keep walking. We're walking. We're still going. We're still going. This is great. Can you just imagine the noise, the sound, the steam? Still walking, folks. As I said, they actually had to build a track right here to push this sucker in here, and then they closed it in here once they got it in. Oh, we can go in. Let's go in. Okay, so now I've walked into an old trolley car from the early 1900s. Horses were starting to go out of fashion, and this guy would ride on a rail, and you'd take your way to work. You had to sit here, just like this. Ooh. And you head to work. Probably not the smoothest of rides, but you know, it'd be the horse-drawn ride. So this is how you have to do it. Reminds me a little bit of something you see like at Disneyland. Anyways, let's continue onward. All right, we're going to step down here onto the trolley. And this is just an example of pre-industrial revolution or industrial revolution, steam and rail forms of travel. Let's go onto an old steam locomotive. Here we go. Ooh, yeah, this is great. Oh my God. I think I'm the only one. It smells like an old garage in here. Oh my goodness. This is wild. This is really wild. Yeah, it smells like the 1950s in here, which kind of smells like an old garage. This is neat. Oh my goodness. All right, so this is what it looks like. $15 round trip from fare from Augusta to Washington, D.C. Wow. $3.50 to Atlanta. And there's everyone lining up to get in where I'm inside right now, one of the passenger cars. And here's some of the meal service on the dining car. Some coffee in that. The old 302, here we are. This thing's been moved twice. Last journey was in 1953 to K-Mac, Georgia. Donated to the city in the late 50s. Come on, honey, we're leaving. We're leaving your father. Hop on the train. This is nice. I'm literally the only one, I think, in this museum. They're only open 3 days a week, so. So this is how they rescued number 1070, the one I'm in now. In the 20s, it was refurbished in 1955. Had air conditioning and reclining seats. Soldier volunteers from Fort Gordon here laid track and employed their equipment and expertise. So this is what it looked like for a while. Sat abandoned until they brought it to the museum. Not this museum. It used to sit in an old museum. When I was a kid, I remember walking in this. No smoking. Put out the cigarette, please. Here's your seat number, where you put your luggage. They've got it roped off. They don't want you sitting on this because these are like vintage seats. It's so weird. It smells like a garage in here, though. Or like an old car from like the 50s. You go like a car show and smell the inside of it. I do like the light blue. I'm assuming this is where they blocked this off. I'm assuming this is where they put luggage to get it out. Let's see where else this goes. Here's the bathroom. What else we got here? Oh, jeez. All right, that legitimately just terrified me. I had no idea this bro was sitting here. Dude. Like, look at this. You're walking with the way this is set up in this old car here. Whoa. It's like, just walking along. Wow. Have a nice trip, sir. Okay. Oh, and it lets us right out at a gas station. Look at this. So this is an old Texaco 1930s gasoline filling station. You could actually fill your Model T up. How much you need, ma'am? Fill her up? And she's all, hey, fill her up, Stan. I think what's his name? Oh, he doesn't have a name tag on. Fill it up, Stan. I'm going to sit here and drink my Coca-Cola. We actually had to count here how many gallons you wanted. They'd fill it up in this thing and you get your gas. And there's one in there getting worked on. I get some new brakes on this thing. Phone booth. All right, here's a little section dedicated to law enforcement, the history of law enforcement here in Augusta, Georgia. I remember when they used to have motorcycle cops. Actually, I remember that. Beat you with a baton. Handcuffs, shackles, and batons. Do not mess with these coppers. I got to see what the story is on this, though. So Richmond County Sheriff's Deputy J.D. Paw. Yeah, I've heard about this. He got shot. It's a Harley. He retired his number. This is his motorcycle. T31. Here's some of the guns used over the years. Oh, look at this. They even used to have sidecars. They had sidecars. I couldn't take the cop seriously in a sidecar. I'm sorry. All right, here next to it, we've got an old fire truck. This one, I would say, I'm going to take a guess. Let's say early 1900s. 1928. A lot better than the horse-drawn one, though, I'd say. And here's some of the uniforms that they'd wear. Sure, it's got, what's it called in it? Asbestos, retardant, flame stuff. And here's some of the other fire stuff. Hoses and whatnot, nozzles. All right. Oh, that's where that went. Okay, there used to be a TV station here. I think it was the ABC affiliate, and they closed down their building and made a new one. And this is the old neon sign from it, mid-century. WJBF. Yeah, that's the local ABC affiliate. Actually, that's a pretty nice sign. They need to light it up. What we got here? U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. These are the guys that went around the country flooding towns and making canals and dams and lakes, man-made lakes. And we have one here. And here's a little thing dedicated to it, Clarksville, all made by the Army Corps of Engineers. And this is a nice lady. She's going to go swimming. Can you imagine a guy wearing these? I can just imagine. And here they are damming it up. Clarksville Dam to make the lake. This was like really popular in the early 1900s. They were just obsessed with damming stuff up and man-made lakes. I'm sure there's a reason, but it's just this. I like pattern recognition. So here's a nice little cotton wagon here at the gunnery, the gunnery. I don't know, probably mispronounced that. All right, off we go. Only one in a museum. This is pretty neat. I've got the place to myself. There's the little train car I went in earlier. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you the local sports history here. We've got a minor league baseball team. It's called the Augusta Green Jackets now, but it's been called many other things. The Augusta Tigers, Phil Cockrell, star pitcher. Augusta Tigers, New York Yankees pennant. Of course, now here's another Green Jackets jersey. The Augusta Pirates, I remember that from when I was a kid. Here's their Pirates pennant. The Monarchs. And here's some new acquisitions they got. Interesting stuff. Masters newspaper. Eclipse glasses from 2024. I remember that. The Unlikely Astronaut. Interesting. Sandwich City. That went out of business. I looked up this place and it used to be a sandwich shop in downtown that was here for like ages and it went out of business. So it started off as the Augusta Browns in 1885, and then it goes all the way from the electricians, the tourists, the dollies, the Georgians, the Tigers with a Y, the Wolves, Tigers with an I, Rams, Yankees, Pirates, and today Green Jackets, which has been around since 94, sorry. This poor guy, he's constantly hanging up there working on the rafters. So quiet in here. All right, off we go. Jeez. Okay, so now we're getting into modern day. Timeless toys, good old Teddy Ruxpin. It's like a kid drew on him. We've got Jiminy Cricket. Oh, Barbie dolls. My girlfriend would go crazy. My mom too, for that matter. Oh, D&D. All right. The Viewmaster. Some Civil War Tinker toys here. Marbles at the very top. Raggedy Ann and Andy from 1944. So cool. All right, so if you haven't checked it out too, one of my other videos I went and visited the local nuclear museum because now we're getting to the time when SRS was built. And the Savannah River site is actually here, and it's where they do a lot of, during World War II, they were making nukes and things, and now they still do stuff, but it's not really for defense. Now we're getting into the 60s. I really like that clock. I really like all this stuff, actually. 60s design really goes for it. And here's a sign from a restaurant here in town called Duke's Restaurant. And here in Augusta, it was here in the 1950s. Renamed business, closed in 2000. They serve breakfast, and businessmen and politicians. Okay. We're going to go over here. All right, so here's some local bakeries and things. Clausen's makes fruitcakes and bread. Local Coke bottling factories. Hollingsworth Candy Factory here in Augusta. And of course, now we're getting into SRS. And they're still open. I did a whole video at the Nuclear Museum in Aiken. It's built in 1950, and they still make plutonium. So, anyways, we're going to keep moving. Now we're going to the Civil Rights Movement, 1950s through the 70s. So here's some of the stuff here in Augusta. We've got some leisure suits, polyester, old Apple computer, Star Wars, making of the movie. Please, if you also haven't, I went to the Cabbage Patch Doll Hospital video. Please check that out. Here's a little Cabbage Patch doll. JB White's, which is, I believe, replaced by a Dillard's Betacam. We got 8 tracks. Moving on over here. This is the Augusta Lynx. They had a hockey team here for a while. And the Georgia games were held here in 1999. Oh, wait, the 2000 Street Party. There's Addie, American Girl doll poster. God, tickle me Elmo. We've got a Game Boy Color. We've got Tamagotchi eggs. Barney. Of course, the 1996 Olympics that came through Atlanta. And of course, there's James Brown, who's from here. I'll get to him in a minute. They've got an entire section dedicated to him. And there's a Home Alone poster. Really cool. I've never seen that poster before either. Donated. Really neat. We got the 90s and 80s here. 70s, 80s, and 90s. Fire department. We've got the LGBTQ flag. Augusta cookbook. It's Obama. So now we're getting into the 2000s. It's raining outside, so you'll have to excuse the sound. Is that Lord of the Rings? Oh, they've got a Lord of the Rings Fellowship Extended Edition. Someone in this museum has taste. Napoleon Dynamite, The Office. So mid-2000s. Onward we go. Sits at Watkins, another restaurant here in Augusta that went out of business. Built in 1987, and it went out of business in 2015. Kind of like the way they've organized this. They've done a good job. All right, let's go to the second floor. I'm walking the stairs because I need the exercise. The Curiosity Corner. Okay. Ooh, hood and rope. Committed killing railroad officer. Interesting. All right, moving up to the second floor. All right. Let's go to the James Brown section. I've heard really cool stuff about this. All right. More Civil War history here. So it kind of breaks the chronological order as you go up the stairs and kind of gives you stuff that odds and ends. So this section is going to have the USS Augusta, James Brown, in classroom. Off we go. Oh, there's so many different religions here. Everything in between. All the religion you can think of. Because freedom of religion in this country is a thing. Boy Scouts. (1912), World War One. So it's like it almost goes back chronologically to World War One. So it's like, I guess below me would be the World War II section. So I guess it does make sense. This is just the second floor of World War II. This is dedicated to Major General Perry Smith of the Air Force. Wow. This guy's been all over. USS Augusta. So if you're curious, this is the USS Augusta. It's a 1930s World War II battleship, and this is dedicated to it. Invasion of North Africa. So if you know anything about World War II, that's Rommel. This Germany went into Desert Fox. He went that Germany, and Hitler went into Africa. And there she is. 1945, 20 millimeter guns, and she could go 13,000 miles at 15 knots. Maximum speed's 32.7 knots. And this section is dedicated to the 28th Destroyer Squadron. Lieutenant Colonel James Diaz. The Jimmy Diaz Parkway here is named after him in town. Okay. All right, WBBQ. This section is dedicated to radio. You know what? I'm not going to do this yet because we got to finish the military section, because this is like, you know, going into Vietnam and things like that. And there is a fort here in town, but it's, I believe it's communications. And I think it's Cyber Command now too, if I'm not mistaken. So cool. Yeah, so we're getting into World War I on the right, and then over here on the left is the modern day type stuff. 1960s APH-5 helmet. All right, so now we can get into music history here in Augusta. So, and that's where we're going to kind of get to James Brown. So WBBQ is the oldest radio station here in town, apparently, and they've had, oh, is that the Rolling Stones come through here? The Beatles were here, Rolling Stones. So this radio station was founded in 1947. Grand Funk, they were here too. And here we go. Dick Clark's The Byrds, Bo Diddley, the Duchess, Paul Revere and the Raiders were all here in Augusta. It's a municipal auditorium, and there he is, one of the DJs working in the old booth. He's gonna look at me. Reminds me of the scene from My Brother Where Art Thou. How much to sing into that can? They do have a theater right now for Black History Month. They're showing a steering committee. But the movie is not playing at the time. We're going to keep walking. Lots of beautiful artwork here. Frank Christian Studios. Baptism. Learning about the medical college here in town, just dedicated to all the history in the city of Augusta. I did a video on this too. That's the dedicated to Archibald Butt, who died on the Titanic. Early flight. All right, here we go, folks. Buckle in. So James Brown is from here. This is where he's buried, and they had his funeral here, and Michael Jackson came to it. He died in like 2009. So they've got a statue of him. Here's one of his outfits. The 70s. Leather vest, cowboy boots, hardest man, working man. And there he is, Godfather of Soul. So many influenced him. Many say that he influenced Michael Jackson's dance style. And there he is with Al Sharpton. Just lost Jesse Jackson. That's great. So yeah, the James Brown estate was kind enough to donate a lot to this museum, and every year James Brown, they still do this, where he gives turkeys out for Thanksgiving to the less fortunate, and Barbie dolls out to less fortunate kids. He'd pop into town every once in a while before he passed, and always would make a big deal about it. Local news and things like that would do stories about him being here. Here's another suit of his. He's a short guy. Here's some of his hair care products. And James Brown's estate donated all this. This was all his stuff. Found in his bathroom. Got a little bit of Maalox, so we got a little bit of heartburn, asthma mist. Eternity. Hey, I wear that. This was all stuff from his bathroom and his house. He's got his Bible. He used Smooth Sheen hairspray. Here's some more stuff. Grew up in Augusta. He was born in 1933 in Barnwell, not too far from here, and they came and grew up here. Here's one of the, that's what it would look like back in his day, the shoe shine. Learned to play a lot, taught himself how to play musical instruments. He got petty crime in his teenage years. By 16, he got arrested for armed robbery. And then he tried out for basketball and boxing after he decided to live the straight life. Okay, here we go, folks. So we are now entering the Godfather of Soul, James Brown section of the museum. There he is from the 50s. I'm on stage. I'm trying to do one thing, bring people joy. Here he is on TV in 1991. There he is live at the Apollo poster from 1994. Oh. So this is a great movie. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. This is the Blues Brothers with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. And they got so many good musicians, and they got James Brown to play a pastor at a church, and they dance and backflips and all kinds of stuff. This is great. That's the director's chair where he got to sit. Is this from Blues Brothers? This is from the remake of Blues Brothers they made for him. And there it is right there. And I think it had John Candy. Yeah. Dan Aykroyd, John Goodman. That's who it is. John Candy. I'm sorry, guys. Not as good as the OG. All right. So here's some more posters and things. God, this section's huge. Just to give you an idea, all dedicated to James Brown. Reminds me a little bit of the Dolly Parton Museum at Dollywood. There it was. He played with the Temptations. Chuck Berry, James Brown, Ray Charles, Bo Diddley, Fats Domino, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard. My God, what a lineup. Golly, that is 1988 concert. It's wild. Some more sections and photos the family donated. There's some more costumes. We've got 1990s one. This is actually the Cape Man's, the guy that came out on stage and would put the cape on him when it was time for him to call it. And there's the Cape Man. He died in 2021. Lasted a little bit longer than James. And here's some of James's. Wow. All right, so we got here on the left, this was from the 80s. We got the leather suit here from the 80s also. And then this one is a three-piece from 1980s. That's a full-length mirror from the home of James Brown. Check himself out. Hey, look at this guy. And then we've got a purple suit with epaulets from the 80s as well. And then one here on the right from the 80s. And a James Brown doll. I vaguely remember seeing this. James Brown was not a tall guy, but man, he moved. There's the Cape Man. There's many of his albums. Some instruments donated. Oh, wow. Here's the cape. One of the many capes. Godfather of Soul, James Brown. And they'd kind of bring this out on stage, the Cape Man would, when he was like done. It's like, call it quits, dude. This is a cape from 2006. Here's another one of his suits from the 70s. Look at that thing. So much funk. And here are some of the records of his. Ready to keep walking? Ready to keep walking? Okay, proud to be black. Yes, sir. There he is in Augusta doing some recordings. I'm black, in stores now. She got right to it. So this is when he died, and they had a bunch of people come in and sign a flag and a cape and stuff, and they had a memorial set up. But I take that back. He died Christmas Day 2006. There's an outpouring. January 3rd, these tokens were removed from the statue. So they had a statue here in town, and these things were left on it for him. Yeah, Michael Jackson came here. It was a pretty big deal. I remember that. And they had to like sneak Michael Jackson in. And here's some of the memorials they set up on his Walk of Fame here on Hollywood Boulevard. And then there's some people. December 30th was the memorial service, 2006. More stuff. Wow, they've got so much. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, they got one of his Grammys. Are you serious? 1986 Grammy for Living in America. That's wild. UK Music Hall of Fame. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Man, all his awards are here. Family all donated them. And there, of course, is the Chadwick Boseman Get On Up movie. Here's some of his driving gloves. His glasses. Here he is with Jackie Chan. Little things here people said. B.B. King, Dan Aykroyd, Fred Weasley, Jesse Jackson all said things about him. And if you want to come to the museum, you can push those buttons and hear it. I don't want to dissuade you from coming here and give you everything so that you don't want to come. It's in Augusta, Georgia. $7. Come on. All right, so I saw another room back here I need to check out. It's the medical room. So Augusta has a medical college here, the Augusta University Medical College. So I scoot through this room quickly. And this is all dedicated. This is new. Last time I was here, this was not here. This is all dedicated to medical history because there's a big medical museum here in town, excuse me, medical college here in town called the Augusta University Medical University. So I think they said it used to be called the Medical College. This guy's about to get some work done. Ooh. There's some ether. Breathe deep. Yeah, this is a new room. It smells brand new in here. God, it's so quiet. Here's some nurses' outfits from history. 1960s, 1945, 1967. And then this one's from 1915. About the same. I mean, changed a lot. Now everyone just wears scrubs. Oof, look at all these tools. Life-saving, but also kind of eerie. Right, let's walk down here. It's like medicine bottles and things. Kind of a dead end back here. All right, we're gonna keep walking. They don't close and lock me in here. All right, we're moving. All right, so we're gonna cut through to the next section. I think we have one more section to go. The James Brown section was impressive. I mean, that was really cool. I mean, the Blues Brothers stuff alone. That's one of my favorite movies growing up. I'd watch all the time. Was the Blues Brothers. Let's go this way. Some of these mannequins are creeping me out, I'll be honest. Look at this guy. I feel like he's going to turn around. WBBQ. All right. All right, so I guess that's it. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm up here on the balcony now, overlooking the rotunda. Yep, I thought so. Here we go. Oh God, the sport of golf. So I'm going to walk you through this one fast because again, I am not a fan of golf. No offense. Let's go check it out. So the Masters is here in Augusta. So they had to do a whole room dedicated to that. They make the club car easy. Club car is here in Augusta. They make all the golf carts here. It's a factory, and they make those here. So if you ever see Easy Go or a club car, it's made right here in Augusta, out in the suburbs part of Augusta, Columbia County, but close enough. So if you see that on your golf course, made right here. Some tees, the history of tees, the history of golf balls, some different outfits. And again, I'm not going to linger here too long because golf just isn't it for me. Wooden golf clubs. Now we got carbon fiber stuff. All right. Let's see what else they got. Looks like more golfs. Yep. Walking right across. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. All right. Augusta National. Again, the Masters Golf Tournament is held here. We're going to leave it at that. If you like golf, come to the museum on the second floor and look at these rooms. I'm just not into it as much. Mainly because it's just one of these things you grow up around it and you kind of get tired of it. Here's some golf clubs. There's Tiger Woods winning. Big deal. Okay. And here's the local Augusta University golf team. All right, let's keep walking. Interesting stuff here in this museum. Wow. All right, here we go into this next room. So this is dedicated to law and order. Dun, 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 dun. Here's a judge's outfit. Jack Ruffin Jr., the Honorable. I'm not sure what this room is. Extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. People of note is what this room's all about. Okay. What do we have here? A bunch of movie posters. But why? Does it explain? Doesn't really say why they put these movie posters here. I guess this is just local people maybe that were in movies and things that came from here. Authors. Oh, I see. Okay, so it's just miscellaneous, folks. I'll go through some of these. Now, I did go to the Oliver Hardy Museum. That's my last one. Please check it out. Because he was from the area. Now, the girl who sings Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, I know she's from here. That's about the only person I can think of off the top of my head. Wyclef Gordon, there's others, but boxers that are from here, golfers, athletics, all kinds of stuff. Let me see who this is for these movies. I don't know. Maybe you guys can help me out. Not sure what that's for. All right. Okay, so that room is called Local Legends. All right. Let's go downstairs. So that's going to do it for today, folks, here from Augusta, Georgia at the Augusta Museum of History. I'd take you to the James Brown statue, but I was just reading, and it turns out they've removed it because they are completely redoing Broad Street here. So the James Brown statue is currently an undisclosed location in storage, so we won't be able to see him today. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Check out my lives. I usually go live about 3 times a day, Monday through Friday. And I've got over 2,000 subscribers now, which is amazing. I also would appreciate you guys checking all of my other videos. I go to museums, roadside attractions, all sorts of other weird stuff, hiking, national parks. Yeah, so Adventuring with Chris. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here from the Augusta Museum. I will catch you guys on the next one. Keep on adventuring.